right, in this video, I'm going to go over the basic 2-point or 3-point rule of thumb when it comes to drawing any perfect curves in Adobe Illustrator. So to quote unquote illustrate that point, I'm going to go to File and New. Right up here, I'm going to click Print, and I want a letter size sheet of paper. Over here to the right, I'm going to make sure my measurements are inches. It's a vertical sheet of paper, and I'll click Create. And we'll let that pop up. Don't need this. Let me close up that little window. And now I'm going to put a scan here. So File and Place in order to trace. I've already navigated out to my folder 5.1, Adobe 3-point curves scan. Make sure there's no check marks on any of your options. Click Place and then just click. And you'll notice we have a horizontal scan, but I created a vertical sheet of paper. So if that ever happens, you don't delete your file and start all over. All you do is go right above your hand tool to your artboard tool. And right up here, this is the symbol for a vertical sheet of paper. This is the symbol, click, for a horizontal sheet of paper. Now I can take my black arrow, move my scan back onto the page, double click to the right of the layers, and I will make that a template. And I always dim my templates down to about 30%, 20 to 30%, and I'll click OK. Nice and light so I can see my tracing on top of it. Now again, once you create a template layer, you cannot draw on that layer anymore. It is locked for a reason. So I will create another brand new layer. You can name your layers or just leave them alone, but you'll notice this layer is set up to draw red anchor points. And if I zoom in on our scan, this also has indicated red anchor points. So maybe I don't want to draw red on top of red. So to the right of any layer, I can double click and change the color of my anchor points. We'll draw them in, let's say, light blue. I'll click OK. Okay, I'm on a brand new layer, so I'm going to hit D for default colors. That sets up the black and white over here. My logo has no white in it, so I'm going to click on the white and hit the question mark key. And now with the pen tool, notice, before you go to draw, make sure you go to your view menu and there are no check marks. No smart guides are turned on, no snap to point. It's just a clear view menu. Let me get out of that. And what I would always recommend is you evaluate what you're going to draw before you sit and draw it. So if I have a corner on an object, it's typically a good place to start from a corner. Notice from here, this curve goes down, all the way down and way back up. That's a pretty long curve. The general rule is when you have short curves, they only require 2 points, the beginning and the end of the curve. If you have any type of long curve, they can be done with just 3 points. You don't need 7 or 8. Okay, so that's what this file is about, is learning that 3-point process. So right here in the corner, evaluate what you're going to draw. This curve goes down and to the left. At the bottom, it turns and goes down to the right. At the top, it turns and goes back up to the right. So I got to keep those angles in mind. Right here, it comes down and to the left, and then halfway through the curve, at the bottom of the curve, it goes down and to the right. Okay, by adding this middle point, it allows me to draw short curves. Short curves are always easy. Now I've drawn half of the long curve. I come all the way back up, press and hold, and drag way up to the right for the second half of that curve. Hold my space bar for my hand tool. We'll push this over. And here's another long curve. Long curves get 3 points. Option key because I start at a corner and the curve comes down. No option key in the middle of the curve, it goes to the right. No option key at the end of the curve, it goes up and to the right. There's my 3 points. Hold my space bar, and now what I've done is indicated where your anchor points go, but not how far you should drag your mouse. So again, if I'm starting here and I'm only coming down to here, you want to click and drag about 30% the length of your curve. So if I've got a short distance, 30% of that is going to be really short. So option key for a corner, down. Now I let go of the option key, come across the bottom of the curve. No option key up here at the end, and it goes up and to the right. 3 points. Space bar to pull it over. Here's another long dipping curve. 3 points. Option key to start from a corner and come down. Short lines, because I'm only going to here. Short distance. Down and to the right. Then it turns at the end and comes back up and to the right. 3 points. Here we've got a really shorter distance, so that's only going to require 2 points. Option key for a corner to start. No option key at the end, and it goes up and to the right. This one, again, is a longer curve. It's going to require 3 points. Option key for a corner to start, and it comes down. No option key at the bottom in the middle of the curve, and it goes to the right. No option key at the end as it comes up to the right. Space bar to push it over. That's another small distance, so that's going to require just 2 points. And if it barely bends, I hold option and drag right along the edge to barely bend the curve, like that. Okay, notice the gap here. From here all the way down and all the way over to there can still just be 3 points. Option key for a corner, it comes down. Right across the bottom, it goes to the right. And then way up here, press and hold and drag a long line for that long second half of the curve. 3 points. Now the problem is, you've got a long curve connected to a very short one. So I had to drag this really long direction line to get a really long curve. But this line is way, way, way too long for this short little distance right here. Okay, so what you have to do when you have a really long curve that is then connected to a really short one is you got to get rid of this long line now. So you back up to the end of the black line, press and hold, and drag a short line to start a short curve, a short line in the middle of a sharp turn, and a short line coming out of a sharp turn. Notice from here, this is a long curve again. So I'm going to back up again. Click and drag a long line to start a long curve, a point in the middle of a long curve, and a third point at the end of a long curve. Now, this one gets tricky, so I'm going to show you how I did it first, but then I'm going to undo that and show you an easier way. But technically, from here all the way up and all the way around can still be done with just 3 points. Okay, I would hold option and drag a long line to start a long curve, a second point in the middle of that curve, and a third point all the way over there. Okay, but that takes a lot of practice. So I'm going to hit Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, and go back. If you have these long distances, put a point halfway up the side, then come across the top, then put a point halfway down the other side. So again, from here to here would be a long curve. That would be 3 points. Option key to start, I go right along the edge because this edge barely bends. I put a point halfway up the side. Then I put a point across the top. I put a point halfway coming down the other side. And then a point at the end. 3 points for the first half. 3 points for the second half. Option key for a corner, come down. No option key at the end. Option key for a corner and come up. Little longer line because I got a longer distance. It goes up and to the left. Now it comes down halfway down the side. And the third point at the end of a long curve. Option key for a corner. One to start the long curve. A second one in the middle of a long curve. And a third one at the end of a long curve. Notice this huge distance here. That can still be 3 points. This edge barely bends, so I'm going to hold option for a corner and go right along that edge. Halfway up the side, right along the edge. Okay. Right up here, I go across the top. Halfway down the other side, come down that edge. All the way down to the bottom. Press and hold and drag way down. Okay, this is a short distance. That's going to be 2 points. That's a short distance, 2 points. This, all the way around to here, is a long distance, so that would be 3. Option key for a corner to start. No option key at the end. Option key for a corner to start. No option key at the end. Option key for a corner to start. There's the first point of a long curve, the second point of a long curve, and the third point of a long curve. Option key for a corner to start. There's the first point of a long curve. Here in the middle is the second point as it dips down. Here's the third point as it rises back up. Okay, notice this long straight edge. I can go way up here, right before a sharp turn. I put a point before a sharp turn, in the middle of a sharp turn, and coming around a sharp turn. This is another pretty much straight edge, so I'll go all the way down here. This distance all the way down to here is a long curve. It's going to require 3 points. Option key to start from a corner. There's the first point. Halfway down the side is the second point. All the way down to the end of a long curve is my third point. From here, all the way down and all the way back up is going to be a long curve. That's going to be 3 points. Option key to start and it comes down. No option key in the middle. There's my second point as it rises back up. And here's my third point as it comes back up. Now it turns and goes over the top. So we'll go over the top. Turns and comes around the side right here. And notice from here all the way down to there can still be 3 points. So right here, one at the beginning, one in the middle of a long curve, and one at the end of that long curve, which is also the beginning of the next curve. And then I come right back to the start. And if I am ending at a corner right here, I hold my option key. Otherwise, I'll show you what happens if you don't, and you flip and you get a knot like that. Okay, and I obviously don't want that, so I'll go to Edit, Undo, and when I'm coming all the way back to the start, Option key to close at a corner, and I go up right there. So here's what your word is going to look like when you're done tracing, again, the large shape. You're going to have one solid big outline. Okay, if there's any bumps or any problem areas, you take your white arrow. You can always click. You can always bend these lines right here and fix any bumps, just by bending this line. So you can always fix anything you want with your white arrow. But you start with the biggest shape, then you zoom in and do the smaller shapes, the openings. So again, with my pen tool, I'm going to start right here. Curve goes up, short line because I only have that short distance. Now it comes down. I come all the way down here before the sharp turn at the bottom. I put a point before that sharp turn, turn and come around that sharp turn, and all the way back up. That's not a corner, so I'm not going to hold my Option key, but I'm going to click and drag, end on a curve. This opening has a corner, so I'm going to Command click to deselect the previous one. Start from a corner. It goes up, halfway down the side, it comes down, across the bottom, it goes to the right, and all the way back up. If I'm ending on a corner, I'm going to hold my Option key first. Now I click and drag, and I end at that corner. Command click to deselect, and now I've got a couple of corners, so I'm going to start here. Up, halfway down the side, across the bottom, back up, Option key for a corner and start by going up, Option key for a corner and end by going up to the right. Command click to deselect. Notice this long curve right here. It's kind of the same thing as the E, but long and skinnier. So I'm going to click and drag right up the side because the side barely bends. Right up here before the sharp turn, a point before a sharp turn, a point right after that little sharp turn, and if I'm ending on a corner, I hold my Option key, click and drag down. Command click, and I'm going to do the same thing here. Click and drag up the side, put a point right across the top of the curve, and if I'm ending at a corner, hold Option key and drag back down, end at a corner. Command click to deselect. I can Option click with my zoom tool to zoom out, and there is my word. But that is not the finished piece. Okay, here's the problem. These openings are not really openings in my word. So what I recommend to people is do not fill these white. Okay, here's what people usually do. I'm going to select it all, click on the fill, and fill it all red. And click outside. You can see those aren't openings. These are separate little shapes that have been drawn on top of the bigger shape. Okay, so let me undo that. And we'll undo the first one. So I've seen people over the years, they click on the opening, shift click, shift click, shift click, shift click, and then they fill the openings white. Okay, that is not the correct way to do it. Even though it looks correct on the screen, that's because I'm drawing on a white sheet of paper. But if I went like this, started on the bottom layer, I create another brand new blank layer, and I'm just going to draw a big rectangle. Okay, we'll just take the rectangle tool right here, draw a big rectangle over the page, and if I just simply filled that with a different color, you can see those aren't openings. They're white shapes. Okay, that's the visual test. If I turned off this layer, of course they look right because they're on a white sheet of paper. But you take it out of context and you put it on a color or on a photo, you would have big white blobs. Okay, so what I'm going to do is select this big rectangle. I'm on the fill, and on my swatches panel in the bottom left corner is swatch libraries. I'm going to click that. I'm going to come down to patterns, And mine's kind of getting cut off on the video, so let me tear this out over here so you can see this. Click the bottom left of the swatches, patterns, decorative, and let's say decorative legacy. Okay, now I've got all these funky little wallpaper patterns. So I'm going to click on the rectangle, click on the fill, and I'll try this little purple one. Great. So now you can see we don't have openings in our letters. I'll close that, and let me move my swatches panel back where it belongs, right over here. Okay, in order to fix this, I'm going to lock that layer with the rectangle so I can't move it. Now what I'm going to do is select the openings again. Click, shift click, shift click, shift click, shift click, and fill them with a color that obviously doesn't belong there. See, if I turned off my rectangle, I could tell those aren't openings. That yellow doesn't belong. Okay, so with the rectangle layer locked, I'm going to click and drag across the whole thing. I'm going to select the word and the openings. I can do that because I locked the bottom two layers. Okay, in order to punch a physical hole through this red shape to make openings in the layers, I'm going to come down to my Shape Builder tool. It's about halfway down on the left. And you'll notice on my screen it has a plus. It's like Legos. It wants to add little Lego pieces together to make a bigger thing. So I don't want to add the opening to the word. I want to punch out or subtract the opening. So with the Shape Builder, I hold my Option key. That's going to give me a minus for subtract. So now again, with my black arrow, select the word and the openings. Click once on your Shape Builder or Shape Builder tool, sorry. Hold your Option key and click every opening. Click the yellows. Option click, Option click, Option click, Option click, Option click. And now I have literally punched a hole through my red letter forms. What I want to do at the end is click on it. I don't need the black outline anymore. And I hit the question mark key. That is how you make a word more legible, is you punch holes through the artwork so that no matter what you put behind it, you're going to see through those openings. And this is the file you would turn into me. Just remember, if you're ever done with an Illustrator file, you don't need the scan anymore, so you can throw away your template, and we're good. All right. Can't wait to see how beautiful your curves are.